Yo, this ain't even really a topic, but something I was talking about earlier. So I was talking about like because somebody was like, yo, how could the promised Messiah come through like Jacob when he wasn't the firstborn, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
like mad situations, it don't be the firstborn, they get the blessing. And then it's like, yo, Jacob was a crook. Dude was just stealing blessings and birthrights and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could you explain that to somebody that got a problem believing? You know what I'm saying? Because it almost seemed like you changed the story. Like,
Well, I mean, I guess that would be a nuanced answer. I think that it's nowhere in scripture that says the promised Messiah has to come from the firstborn. So I think if somebody was to put weight on that, it would just be their own, their own personal bias for or against. What's it called? Primogeniture, where the
I
majority
heard
of
that.
the blessing goes to the firstborn. Yeah.
Mm.
But as far as Jacob being a crook and like stealing birthrights, Zay actually I think has a real interesting perspective on that in the
Mm.
sense that it was really Mom Dukes that was like, yeah, like,
Yeah, that's true.
you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, this is what God, you know what I'm saying? This is what I believe was revealed to me. This is what I want you to do. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna hold you down. So I mean that would be tougher to explain for me than the firstborn joint. But
That's true. That's true. That
I
makes
mean I would
sense.
just be like, fam, you a crook too, but you still want to be saved. So
Right. True. So, yo, so to jump right in, right? So we kind of talked about this before. We all seen the video of the guy who was on the campus picking up the trash, and
yeah,
the cop stopped him. What he said, he felt like there was like complaint of trespassing or something.
yeah.
He showed him. He asked for his ID. He was like, sure, showed him the ID. It's a school ID. And he's like,
No.
oh, your address ain't on here. Can you give me your birthday? All this stuff. Then dude got annoyed, right? So, we battled about this situation where people felt like he should have just continued to comply, not give the cop a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree. I felt like he cooperated enough to a point, and the guy kept pushing the limit, even though he was talking nice and all that. He was pushing the limit because, come on, even with a certain level of common sense, he showed you a school ID. He said he was on his campus. I mean, what trespasser picks up trash with tools to pick up trash? You know what I'm saying? And the whole situation just became more than what it had to be. So when the guy got frustrated, it's almost like we talk a lot about like playing the victim and all of that, but it's almost like it's now cool to blame the victim now. It feels like to me. Like I just don't agree that he should have continued it, because that's always the excuse. Like if you comply, you live, this, that, and the third. But you got like mass shooters that get taken into custody. You got dudes. The dude the other day, wasn't there a story recently, a couple days ago? Like some dude killed a cop, some white kid who killed a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and they took dude into custody. So you trying to use the comply argument to preserve your life? I think it's just bigger than that, personally. You know what I'm saying? Because it's inconsistent to me. Where if I friggin' go for my wallet to show you my license, I'm in a situation where I should be shot. I just don't see that. What y'all think? Mm. I know some of you. I know. I know. Was it? No, Ant, you disagreed with me, Ant.
Yeah,
Real
I mean,
quick
I
though,
really,
what state was
Go
this
ahead.
in?
I don't
Colorado.
know. Oh, Colorado.
Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Colorado.
Colorado. Okay.
I don't know nothing about Colorado.
yeah, it was in, I believe Boulder, Colorado, and I know it was messed up. I mean, the dude was definitely getting harassed. It was probably, I'm not too familiar with Boulder, Colorado, but I could guess that there's probably not a whole lot of,
Black people there.
yeah, there's not a whole lot there, and so all that, coupled with you got this black dude with dreads out there in a place where these police officers probably don't see a whole lot of that around, and he decided to profile them. It was very evident. And so my thought process has always been, when you're being profiled, when you're being harassed by the police, be the bigger man, man. Be the bigger man. Comply. That's my honest. If that was me in that position, that's my, as an older person, that would be my honest advice, that I give to my children, to anybody who's in that instance, because the reality is that it matters who the officer is that day. You just don't know what you're gonna get that day. Some of these officers will kill you for real. Like they're really killers, and all they need is the smallest bit of an excuse to do so, and then you just gonna be on the news, and people gonna be sad, and then move on with their life, and then the police officer's gonna get off, and everybody moves on and on to the next thing. You know what I'm saying? You'll just be a memory, a statistic. And so all the instances of the people that I know of where that stuff happened, arguably if they would have just complied, just humble yourself for that time and move on, they could have been, they could have possibly avoided the situation. So yeah, that's always going to be my advice in a situation like that. That's always going to be my advice.
Yeah.
I think my perspective really boils down to a couple of things. One, how the officer conducted himself in the beginning, right? When the officer conducted himself in the beginning, it seemed like a pretty simple conversation that was being had. And this conversation started out mad simply. Asked the dude, what was he doing around here? He asked the dude, he said, I believe he said in the video, I'd have to watch it again, but I believe he said he'd seen him walking around, and he decided to go ask him what he was doing around the area, right? And then after he asked this guy this question, the guy was like, yeah, I'm just cleaning up trash around the given area. And the cop was like, okay. Well, do you have, I think he said, do you live around here or something like that? And the dude was like, something like, yeah, that's my building. And he was like, okay, can I see some ID? And the guy asked him, the guy handed it over, kind of annoyed a little bit, but he handed it over and he saw a school ID. Obviously, I'm guessing that school ID would show that where he was picking up trash was where he belonged. Right. And the cop then said, he's like, do you have anything with your address on it? When he asked that question, right, I was always told, state by state, they got different rules. But in my state, I'm told that if a police officer stops you in the street, you have a right as a citizen to ask, are you being detained for questioning? That's the first question you could ask. Am I being detained for questioning? And the dude obviously got a little flustered based on this line of questioning. I think he thought something was about to pop off. So he reacted. I don't knock him initially for his reaction, but I definitely don't think he de-escalated the action with his response. And the problem, the problem is, like, by not de-escalating the situation, it almost made the officer, and I'm assuming this, feel like he had to go further into the dialogue, right? And he was like, why do you have something with your name, with your address on it? Now, I don't know if he had a identification with his address on it, that would have solved the problem. I don't know that. It could have, it may not have, I don't know. But what I do know is every step they got taken after that was escalating the situation. And the dude began to eventually get so frustrated, he walked away from the cop. And the cop was like, "Sir, can you sit down?"
Right.
And the guy was like, "No, I can't sit down." And like when he did that, I was like, "Oh, he bold."
It
You know,
got
he
different, right?
Yo,
It got different.
Yeah,
he wanted because
turned his back on the cop.
what guy? Yeah, he waving the stick in the air and all that. I'm like, yo, you bold, cuz
Right.
and ultimately when that happened, I was like, I heard the cop say one thing that I knew he said because he had to have rehearsed it. He said, "Sir, I need you to sit. I'm questioning you. I'm detaining you for questioning right now. So I need you to stop where you at." Like, if a cop tells you that they're detaining you for questioning and you still do it, yes, you are obstructing justice.
He may not know that legally. You know what I'm saying? He may just hear the terminology as kind of like I was saying, it's like a code word for I'm just gonna make you do what I want you to do. Like, now you're being detained, and it's like, come on, go ahead with all that. Like, you know what I mean? He's probably not processing it like this is a legal process at this point. It's just like it started out as a simple conversation. You see, now I don't want to talk to you no more. Now you're gonna use code words to make me not walk away. Because even look later in the conversation, now you got a weapon all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now you got a weapon.
But you see
fear.
that though,
and it's like, come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but
now you fear.
Point,
like, nah, man.
At this point, he had to be under a rock to not have known what's been going on. So the minute the cop told him that, he should have turned around and complied.
But even later on, Shannon, he said, yo, I could buzz you in to show you this is where I live. He said, come with me. I'll buzz you in with me to show you. So I feel like the cop was still giving him the same thing we saying the guy was doing, like, yo, you're just kind of making it harder. The cop was doing the same thing. That's why I felt like he was power tripping a little bit. Because if he really wanted to know if he lived there and the man offered to buzz you in with him, wouldn't that be some type of proof? Wouldn't that be good enough for you? And which is why I think in the end, it said, Ashton, get off the TV.
I'm sorry.
That's why in the end, now I'm playing. That's why in the end, the superior or whatever told him, like, he showed you he lived here, so let it go.
Yeah, and it would be good enough for me. But here's the thing. I'm not the cop though. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at the end of the day, like, and I think that's the nuance. Like, I'm not a dude that personally, advocates for cops over citizenry or anything like that. I'm actually more of a person that advocates for everybody to have individual accountability when it comes to situations like these. And like Ant said, and this is probably the only time we're gonna agree. Like, yo, you are responsible. Man. You're responsible for what you do, regardless of what that cop is popping off to do. You're responsible for that. So yeah, you're right. He had a situation where he didn't. He was waving the stick around, and like I'm watching the thing before it ever escalated. I'm like, yo, he about to get shot, bro. Like, because he waving the stick in the air.
He was real loose with that stick.
I'm like, yo, you wilding right now. Like, you walking away from a cop with a trash stick in your hand. Like, and like, how he know you ain't about to turn around and try to pull a jack move? You know what I'm saying? Like, so old dude might have been warranted emotionally, right? I'm not gonna say he shouldn't have been emotional, but what I am saying is he was not wise in preserving his life. Because where I'm at, he probably would have got shot.